Hello everyone, this is Donnie aka Elevated, and here's another video for you today on behalf of Dota Alchemy. This one is going to be a little bit different. We're going to take a brief hiatus from learning about the mechanics of Dota, and I just wanted to have a conversation and ask you guys a question, sort of discuss the current state of Dota matchmaking, because this has been a pretty hot topic in a number of different forums. We've seen countless high MMR streamers and pros talking about how terrible the pubs are and complaining about griefers and various other problems with matchmaking. And then, unsurprisingly, as a result of these high profile players talking about the issues, we've had a huge rise, I would say, a tidal wave, in fact, of threads on Reddit of people complaining about Smurfs and Boosters and their own griefers and their own feeders in their games. And so it's just kind of an interesting topic to me because we've had people weighing in on this from all over the Dota 2 scene, and I just wanted to kind of pose the question to you. What do you think about matchmaking currently as it is? What do you think about the current state of the game of Dota 2? And I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead and just give my thoughts because I've been thinking about this a lot recently. And, I've read all the posts. I read the recent one by Monkeys Forever. Of course, there was one by BSJ. Nahaz wrote an article about the abysmal state of matchmaking. We've had Envy and various other people complaining about it. Jenkins complains to me about people feeding and griefing in his games all the time. And so from what I can tell, the problem with people griefing and intentionally feeding and destroying their items and quitting games because they don't get their role, or they have a bad early game, or they die once, or literally just feel like ruining the game, it seems to be much higher instance at the higher MMRs. And this makes a lot of sense just because the player pool there is so much smaller than at any other MMR bracket. And so the amount of people it takes to ruin that population, or at least severely degrade the quality of the games, is much smaller. Also, the people that end up ruining the games there are fully capable of returning to that MMR fairly quickly because they are, 6 or 7K players. And so to climb back to that rating is no real feat for them to do. And so even if they are, put in low priority, or they may even have multiple Smurfs, who knows? But it's not very hard for them to continue to ruin games because the punishment system is fairly lacking. And so that's the first thing that I actually want to talk about, is the punishment system and the report system and the bans, which I think a lot of people were really excited about when Valve announced that they were going to start handing out these 6-month bans for notoriously toxic accounts. And we saw a few of them, and after kind of the initial wave of them, I don't really remember seeing a whole lot of people talking about it anymore. I mean, it's still in place, but I don't think it's really that hard to avoid getting a 6-month ban, just because it's so transparent what your behavior score is, so people can kind of monitor it. They can be super toxic, they can throw games all they want, and then once they hit a certain report threshold, all they have to do is just rein it in a little bit or not play for a while, and then their behavior score is going to be okay, or they can party queue with friends or just play turbos or whatever. It seems like a fairly abusable system, but at the same time, there is a little bit of a policing that can be done by the community. I guess, I don't know, I personally think that the report and commend system is okay. I think that the fact that you can report people is a good part of the game. I think that actually being notified that you are being reported would actually maybe make it a little bit better. Like, you get notified if you're commended, so why not also get notified if you're reported? Because it would give you that instant feedback. I mean, sure, it might make some more arguments in the post-game chat or something like, why are you guys reporting me? But a lot of people are just going to tell you anyway, hey, I'm going to report you. So what's the harm of just adding a little notification? Hey, you got reported in this game for this reason, whether it be communication abuse or whatever. And I think maybe even just making that part a little bit more transparent, since the commands are transparent, would be something that might be beneficial to the system. And other than that, I don't really know, other than having a sort of Overwatch system. And when I say Overwatch, this is something that has been suggested a lot in the last month or so by community figures and on Reddit as well, which is that there is an Overwatch system, not the game, in CSGO. And it is basically a system where people that are being accused of cheating or abusing or whatever can have those games reviewed by an impartial judge or somebody who is, it is their responsibility to monitor the quality of the games. And if they are, the party is found guilty, then a punishment is handed out. Obviously, there are an insane amount of matches that are played every single day in Dota. And so this would require a pretty titanic effort on part of Valve. And it would definitely have to be something that's handed off to the community. I don't really know exactly how they would handle this because there are so many games that are played across all the regions. They would really have to tighten up the type of reporting system that they have because, let's be honest. I know that there are a decent amount of Smurfs and Boosters and Griefers across all MMRs. But I also know that probably 80 or 90% of the reports that are handed out are because somebody gets pissed, team, they think that the person is feeding because they had a bad game, or they think somebody is boosting or smurfing because they had a good game, and they get reported for that. Or they simply lose a game that was potentially winnable because of mistakes, and then they report their team for that. Or somebody first picks Pudge or Techies, and they get reported for that. Or somebody first picks Anti-Mage, and they get reported for that. The thing is, there would have to be a way to filter out these kind of games, and there would have to be a way to algorithmically find the really, really clear episodes of abuse in a game. So, and this should be something that Valve can figure out. Replays can be parsed. We can pull data of every single replay of every single game that's being played, and we can analyze it and see where people died and when they died and how many times they died and how many times the courier died and all sorts of stuff like that. And so it seems like we should be able to find these people that are actually intentionally griefing games. And that is the main issue, right? The people that are literally on purpose losing the game for their team for one reason or another, those are the people who really need to be punished in the system. And if you ask me, those are the people who should just frankly be banned from ever playing Dota again, because why? Why would you even bother to do that? And why should the Dota community suffer that kind of behavior in the game? I frankly think that if somebody is intentionally feeding and ruining the game for everybody else in it, because it really does ruin the game for 9 other people. Sure, you get some free MMR if you're on the other team, but at the same time, you are likely feeling like you wasted 20 or 30 minutes. Could be longer, depending on how long the game goes or when the feeding occurs. You're just wasting a bunch of people's time, and that's, frankly, one of the most annoying things that can happen, because everybody knows that their time is valuable. Time is arguably the most valuable resource in the world, and so if it feels like the other team or somebody in your team can hold your time hostage, that feels really terrible, and that is something that absolutely should be addressed. And if somebody is doing that, honestly, I support a 1-strike penalty. If you intentionally feed in a game and you destroy your items, you walk down mid, you should never play the game again. That's that's how I feel about it. I don't know how you feel about it. Feel free to let me know in the comments. But even if it was like a 2 or 3 strike policy, why should these people if they can't keep it together and they can't do something that actually takes effort, it takes effort to drop your items and right click every single one of them and to walk down mid over and over and over. And some people go even as far as to, pick a specific hero to do that, like Nature's Prophet, or buy specific items to do that, or they buy all the wards off of cooldown and they give them to the other team. Like, this kind of behavior is just so unacceptable. And if you think about it and extrapolate this scenario to like any other arena in life, that person would be universally shunned. So why is it something that can happen on a regular basis in Dota? It shouldn't be able to happen. It should just be something to text, 17 deaths on Nature's Prophet, boom, that account never can play the game again. Why not? After that happens a few times, I'm sure people will start reconsidering it a little bit. So the next thing that I wanted to address is the deal of Smurfs and Boosters. I know this is a very big complaint as far as the sort of the lower MMRs and really stretching all the way up until Immortal. I mean, I know it's something that people complain about universally across all MMRs, but I think that a lot of people are really sort of upset about this, maybe more in like the low to mid tier of the game, because these are the people who are still kind of learning the game or maybe really desperately trying to improve at the game. And a lot of their games, they feel like, are just decided by which team has the Smurf or Booster. Now, I'm sure that there are quite a few Smurfs and Boosters out there, but I'm also quite sure that the proportion of them that are being reported or experienced as Smurfs and Boosters is much smaller than it actually is. I think, again, that just because an Invoker goes like 20-0 and 16 mid or something like that in one game does not mean that that person is a Smurf or a Booster. It very well could just be some one-trick Archon 5 player who only plays Invoker and happens to be having a good game because of a matchup. Maybe he's just simply on today and he's playing his best. I think that kind of stuff is much harder to detect. Of course, if you look over a period of time, it might be much easier to detect if you can see an account that goes from legend to immortal in a month. That's pretty obvious that that person was never a legend player on that account. Now, where do you draw the line? Because Dota matchmaking and MMR game tends to be something that's fairly streaky. I know from my own experience that I can go and win 1,000 MMR in a month, which is quite a few ranks and quite a few rank ups. And I can also lose 1,000 MMR in a month, depending on my mindset, depending on what heroes I'm picking, and depending on how aggressively binge queuing I am. And so these kind of things, I think, pose maybe a bit more of a problem, something that would have to be looked at a lot closer to actually determine a solution to it than the griefing and feeding part. As far as the smurfing and boosting problem, another thing that I wanted to just kind of ask is, I played a lot of sports growing up, and I know that one of my favorite things when I was playing sports and learning sports was to play against people that were way better than me, because that allowed me to learn from watching them. If I was playing baseball or soccer, it was always fun to challenge myself to play against somebody who is significantly better than me, whether they were older or bigger or stronger, faster, because I was able to see what was possible, and it kind of inspired me to use that or to strive to be like that. Now, in Dota, that really never seems to be the case. From what I can tell, is that when people play against somebody that's better than them, they just inevitably assume that that person is just ruining their game. And a lot of people, maybe it stems from the fact that people have a really hard time accepting that they're making mistakes in Dota. I don't really know. I'm trying to think of my own experiences of maybe going on a big MMR gaining spree and then suddenly finding myself against people that are way better than me. And there definitely is a little bit of a Dunning-Kruger effect where you feel like I'm doing so much right because I'm gaining all of this MMR, and suddenly you find yourself in a much higher MMR bracket where your mistakes are being punished, and then you lose a lot. It can be kind of hard to separate the success that you recently experienced from the failures that you're now experiencing, And so it might be hard to actually think that the people you're playing against are actually way better than you, and you need to learn from them. And I think that in Dota, it's obviously a little bit harder because there's no sort of personal interaction with these people, and so you're not really able to maybe necessarily be inspired by these players. But at the same time, if there was no MMR system, if there was no ranking system, it was just kind of like the Dota 1 days where you just hop into a game and then play, and some people were good, some people were bad. I don't remember ever having a game back in the day where people were upset that somebody was way better than else. I mean, I think that people would get upset if their team was bad, but I don't think anyone was ever like, man, this person is just ruining our games because they're so good at the game. So I don't really know how I feel about the smurfing and boosting problem. I think the boosting to sell accounts is definitely something that's kind of messed up, like having a 2K player playing a 7K game because they bought an account for $150 or whatever it is pretty lame. But at the same time, it's like, they're gonna ruin some games, but so is somebody that's playing bad. Somebody that's playing badly on that day because maybe they're emotionally stressed from work or a relationship or something like that. They might play several thousand or at least a few hundred MMR lower than they normally would, and might seem like they are a bot account because they're just playing awful compared to how they normally play because they're just distracted. That's also possible. And then as far as a smurf, somebody way better ruining games as they climb and re-rank their smurf, I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about it, to be honest, because I just don't really care that much if somebody is much better than me. To me, it seems like that's a good opportunity to learn. And yeah, it kind of sucks because it does sort of ruin the balance of the game, and the game in matchmaking is meant to be one balanced team against another balanced team. May the best team win. But at the same time, one of the teams is going to win because people are going to play better. So if one of those people happens to be playing way better because they simply are a way better player, it's really not that much of a difference than just having a 4K player play like a 5K player for a game and carry the game by not actually being a 5K player in that scenario. Recently, because there was all these comments here on YouTube of people saying that the information that Jenkins and I were providing in these videos was not applicable to their low MMR games. You had to rely on your teammates coordinating or taking advantage of the space that you're making or whatever. So I made a 1K Smurf. I found an account that was 1000 MMR, and I played a handful of games on it, only playing support. And I streamed these games, and I wanted to show people that you could actually play support and climb MMR if you just played support well. And you didn't have to just play, mid and carry and bow and Storm Spirit and Tinker and these kind of heroes that are traditional boosting heroes, right? And so these games, they were fun. They were quite entertaining, actually. I have a lot of them recorded, and I was planning on making a series about it, but I didn't release any of them because of all this uproar about the smurfing and boosting stuff that is going on right now. I don't really know if it is okay, because I still don't really know where I stand on this, because in one sense, the MMR system is important in its integrity because it is a competitive ladder, and there's some sort of, you're supposed to kind of grind and climb the ranks in that way. But at the same time, I didn't really feel like I was really ruining these games that I was playing in. I was just simply playing a better support than most people had probably ever encountered at that level, just because I was several thousand MMR higher than I was playing. So I knew how to do all these things that the supports at that level couldn't do. And like I said, it didn't really feel like I was ruining the games. I definitely wasn't like flaming my team or anything like that, because obviously, like that's a huge problem, is when somebody, might be smurfing and boosting and they're just treating their team like trash because they're like, oh, you guys are so terrible, just let me carry this game because I'm smurfing or whatever. That kind of attitude is terrible. It's super toxic. That doesn't belong in the game either. But if you are, kind of trying to like help your team, teach your team, and you just happen to be way better than them, is that bad? I don't know. It still kind of does ruin the integrity of the matchmaking system. But at the same time, I'm, like, hey guys, why don't we go here? Why don't we play in this area? Because I'm warding here, so we're safe. Like, that sort of stuff, it seems like maybe that is an okay way to learn the game to some extent. But again, I'd like to hear your thoughts, because I'm still trying to form my own opinions about this particular issue. And I know that this video is kind of going on for a while. It's sort of, like I said, it's a conversation. It's just something that I wanted to kind of put out there and give my thoughts and hear yours in the comments below. So the last thing that I wanted to actually talk about is just sort of my overall impression of the matchmaking system in Dota. And to be frank, I think it's pretty good. I think that it could definitely be improved with, some policing of the, especially the report system. I think that the report and command system is something that really does need to be looked at and perhaps completely overhauled to make it more impactful in the quality of the games. The fact that we have no idea like how behavior score changes things. It seems like maybe your queue times get longer and you get worse people, but nobody really knows. So having some more information on how that actually works would be nice. That being said, I find that probably 95 to 97% of my games are generally quite good. And I say good as in, they're not necessarily coordinated. We don't necessarily have good drafts. We don't necessarily have people that are super willing to play support or buy wards. And a lot of people just want to, get kills and run around the map doing random stuff instead of actually like going for objectives and playing proper Dota. But at the same time, I very rarely feel like somebody is intentionally losing the game. But I also know that if I get upset at somebody or I'm having a bad day, it can definitely seem like people are intentionally losing the game because maybe they feel like they need one more item and the rest of the team wants to push, but that person just says, nope, I need one more item. And so they're going to get that item. And at that point, it is kind of up to the rest of the team to recognize that they only have 4 instead of 5, and they need to change their plan. That being said, or generally in a game will gang up on that one person and blame them for losing them the game, even though they took a 4-on-5 fight. And so it really is just kind of a matter of perspective. I'm sure, like I said, that at the high MMRs, the games are worse in terms of quality overall just because of the player pool. But I think for general matchmaking, the state of the game is relatively good. So I don't think that there's any reason to panic about Dota matchmaking, and I don't think that it really helps that much to have all these people talking about how terrible Dota matchmaking is, because frankly, if you repeat something enough times, people begin to believe that. And people begin to believe that their teammates are just going to be toxic all the time. There's sort of this weird Dota self-deprecating way that we talk about ourselves as Dota players, like, oh yeah, we're so toxic as a community. We're like the worst gaming community. We hate everybody and we're super unfriendly to noobs. But I mean, that's not necessarily the case. I've definitely played plenty of games where people are very nice, very helpful, and I think that the overall perception of the Dota community at large is fairly misconstrued. And it's misconstrued because of the vocal minority who are complaining about every little thing, or they lose a game and they're frustrated and they go on Reddit and complain about it. Maybe they call somebody a booster or a smurf who is not. Maybe they are. It doesn't really matter. They're only going to complain about it because they're frustrated and the game was bad in their opinion. but they're never going to go, hey, I had a great game of Dota today. Because, they're never going to post that on Reddit. That's not what you use Reddit and the internet for. You use it to complain and voice your opinions about stuff that's controversial for the most part. So we never hear all of the good things about matchmaking. Just the other day, I had a game where it was super back and forth, and me and my team were ahead, and then we threw, but then nobody freaked out, and we were like, hey guys, let's just chill. And multiple people, it wasn't just me, I was saying this, a couple other people were saying this, we even had a couple of people fighting, and then the other 3 people on our team diffused the situation. We're just like, hey guys, everything's fine, we're gonna win this game. We worked through it, and we came back and we won the game. And it was just like, it was a really great Dota experience. And I guess the last thing that I wanted to touch on is just that I think it's a little bit unfortunate that we look so highly at the professional scene. I mean, the professional scene in Dota is incredible. Players are incredible, the teams are incredible, the strategies are incredible, and their coordination is incredible. And so many of us just look to the pros as the source of everything, right? The source of all of our knowledge about the game and how it should be played. And quite frankly, the game that they play is just so good that it's not something that you could ever experience at a pub game. And while that is unfortunate, it's just something that is not realistic to expect when you press the Play Dota button and queue up for your solo queue game. You're just not going to get that pro experience. And so I think it's actually a little unfortunate that we do look so highly at the pro scene, because all of us want that experience when we play Dota, but we're never going to get it. So you're just always setting yourself up for failure over and over and over and over again. And that can get kind of disappointing. And maybe that's even why we get so down on our community, is just because we want something that's just not attainable. You're never going to get a professional level of Dota in your pubs. And to be honest, that's okay. Like, I think that the more that I'm realizing this particular fact, and the more I keep it in mind when I do play Dota, the less and less I get frustrated with my team. And I just kind of realize that part of playing solo queue is literally managing your team's emotions and managing your team's communication and managing your own communication, how you're interacting with different people on your team, not demanding things, and just kind of like having normal interpersonal relationships with your teammates for that half hour or 45 minutes or an hour that you are in this game with them. And that's something that I think has probably been lost in translation on the internet. It's that we literally are just, 5 people playing with 5 other people in this game that we're all trying to play to have fun. And it's kind of unfortunate that that's just how it is, but I hope that maybe with this video, at least a few people will maybe resonate with this. And I don't know. I hope that we can maybe sort of spread that to the people that we play the game with, and maybe that will spread to the people that they play with. And instead of, highlighting all the negative aspects of Dota, and then those get spread from one person to the next, because toxicity is really like a virus. If somebody feeds in a game, and at least one of those people is probably more likely to feed in their next game, and it kind of just spreads out like that, because you've got this one toxic person, and now they infect 2, and then those 2 become 4, and it just becomes this very negative spreading effect. But I feel like that same kind of thing could probably happen by, just being better people to each other in Dota and spreading a positive effect instead. So those are my thoughts. Again, I would really love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for sticking around and watching this video. I know it's not like our normal content, but just something that I wanted to say and something I've been thinking about a lot because of how public this discussion has been of late. So we'll get back to the regular programming tomorrow. We've got a really awesome video about when and how to take Roshan by Jenkins that I think you guys are going to love, which will also be released in the next 24 hours. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.